public.
Cool.
Okay, start over. Yeah, all right. So let me go in. I'm gonna have to check that every time now. Okay, here. Yep, gone. Okay. Here. Yeah, here they come.
All right, there it is. Great.
Several people in the house. Hello, Diane McLaughlin. I'm going to show Morgan that picture and see if he thinks we're twins. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Starting to wonder if I got hacked, but I guess we're okay. Looks like we're okay. Synergy. All right, 19 people in the house. I'm going to get started in just a second. Round 2 with Zachariah. Hey, Diane McLaughlin, Jania Gazda, Karen Anang, Monica Ramirez, Mary Cooper, long time no see, Mary. Shirley Levendahl, Melissa Morgan Topham, Kelly Bird. Yeah, South Africa. Lee Stromitz. Yeah. These shows resonate with you, please share. Thank you for your continued love and support and contributions to keep us going by the seat of our pants every day. The main thing is we keep showing up. All of us keep showing up. We all deserve credit for that. We're all valiant souls. And we're all living the dream now, not dreaming the life. So let's keep doing it. Hello, Richard LaPointe. Good to see you. And Angela Woodward. We got Zachariah back with us, our beloved brother. We had some exciting things to talk about last time. It was a really good first show. And I think you got a couple of things on your mind this time, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I think I want to talk about just like what's up in the field right now.
Yeah, oh, I saw that post you put up. I shared your post, actually. I shared it.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. That's a great subject.
It's so alive right now. How I can boil it down to like its essence is that what I feel in the field right now is that the ultimate levels of everybody's programming around, if I don't have control, I'm not safe, is showing up in just like every which way, and everybody's got a different way. So somebody might be looking at somebody on the outside and thinking, oh, their economic problem, that makes sense for them to be having these feelings of, I'm unsafe, I don't have control, I don't know how to get my needs met. And then themselves are feeling an anxiety and not realizing that they have just as justifiable reason in their own consciousness that they're feeling those feelings about. It might be, they don't know what direction that they're going to be heading with their life. And so therefore their future income, or they don't know if they're going to have a stable relationship or not in a stable relationship, or their relationship that they do have that they want to be stable feels unsafe, or all these different examples of every which way that people are saying, if I only knew what was going to happen, if I only had control, if I only knew from something outside of myself that everything was going to be okay, then I would feel good. And whatever those things are for people, it doesn't matter what it is, they're all valid. It's just whatever is programmed into their filing system, because the energy is that. The energy is you don't have control, you're unsafe. That might lead to despair. There's a lot of despair in the field, like no way out, don't know the way forward, feeling stuck, or I'm at the end of my rope, or I'm feeling, just in the experience of trauma in my life. So it's shutting me down. Yeah. So that's the energy. And the way our brains file away information is by the tonal quality of the emotion.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what emotion you bring up, if you get somebody to feel emotion and then ask them, so now remember something about that felt like that, they'll be able to pull up in an instant every single file from their entire life, in which that exact tonal quality, that feeling, they had that same feeling. And so everything that we have in our filing system, in our field, is all based off of this emotional tone. So anytime that there's that emotional tone out there in the resonant field, of the planet, people start pulling up those files. And because those things are already so alive in their field, meaning there's enough stored patterned energy still left over on those subjects because they weren't resolved, as soon as their attention starts to go back onto that energy, all that energy gets reactivated again. Mm-hmm. And so that does one of two things. It either pulls up a bunch of thoughts, so like the anxiety start, the worry start, the memory start, the bodily experiences start, and or there's not much difference between what's up here in the mind field, and what's out there in manifestation. Mm-hmm. The difference between thought and manifestation is like the difference between water vapor and ice. So it's a lot more condensed out here. But if they already have so much energy in their field that's unresolved from their lifetime or the lifetime before, or from their parents, that they're still in their familial lineage field, in any case, if there's enough energy, it's gonna be manifested very, very quickly. Not because they all of a sudden have, by the law of attraction, caused themselves to create that right away. It's because all of that energy was already in their field and never got resolved.
And reactivated.
Yes. Yeah. Because that file got pulled up.
So that tells me two things. One is, it's a choice point, like everything is. It's a choice point. And we've gained the awareness of how it works, and you explained it so well, why it works, because that law of attraction actually works a little bit different than we were kind of led to believe. The secret, nothing against the secret, but you're right. It's more of a reactivation. And so when you say this is what's, and I loved your post yesterday, when you say this is what's present in the field right now, I think to myself, it's got to be an opportunity in there. And I've seen this happen over the last, we'll take the monetary thing. I've seen this happen over the last few weeks. I had a discussion with Franco Di Nicola about it. He and a few other people that have been practitioners for quite a while, how things had kind of dried up, how things weren't moving, the fluidity was no longer there. They were understanding, as I've kind of understood, and it's happened to Soulogy, just hold. Don't go into the old routine. Don't go into the force and the control and all that. That's why I start saying, beginning of the show, thank you for your love and support and contributions to keep us going by the seat of our pants every day. I'm not trying to be funny, but that seems to be the new energy. That seems to be the new path, is we don't have tomorrow. We're literally forget about tomorrow. As we've let go of the past, we have to learn now. That's a lot easier because we experienced it. Let go of tomorrow and your projections of tomorrow. And what do I got to do to get to where I want to tomorrow? And that whole rush, hamster in the wheel thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen
it's so interesting because like when we talk about, for instance, all of this not knowing what's happening, not in control, and the despair that brings up. So that is stored patterned energy that over many, many thousands of years, humans were having these fearful thoughts, vibrating as those thoughts, impressing those vibrations into the field, but there weren't anywhere near as many people who were able and willing to stay present with those feelings, feel them completely and not close down. And so those energies never got reabsorbed. And so now, as our collective energy starts to open up more, we become more and more aware, which means we start processing more and more of the energy. And for every part of our evolution forward, there's a mirror to that in, you might call the negative or the disharmonious. For instance, in this case, we've dissolved so much stored patterned energy that the path forward isn't set anymore.
Right.
Because what would have been set by is just there being stored pattern energy. Some people call that karma, which then our attention would be upon. And because our attention would be upon it, we would keep having thoughts like it because our attention would be on it. And so it's like a feedback loop. And so we would have a definite way that we would end up going because we would be going in the direction of processing that stored pattern energy. It would be getting our attention. So much of that has dissolved that even me, who can sometimes see the future, some of my longest accurate results were like over 20 years. When I was a kid, I would predict things and like, bam, bam, bam. All I was doing was reading and feeling the stored patterned energy. I was reading the probability, the trajectory that we would have, and the relative choice points of branches could only go so far until that energy was dissolved. But we have so massively dissolved so much of it in the last like 7 years, even more so in the last 3. It's been insane how fast we're moving through it. That there's not a deep enough groove cut. There's not enough stored patterned energy in one particular area of vibration to say this is exactly what's happening. So what do we naturally respond to with that? Well, if we have any fear left over of not having faith and trust that the universe is good and is for us and that we're eternal beings and that we're safe, that's just lack of certainty then.
Yeah.
If there's no karma drawing us forward, nobody can feel what's happening next very clearly.
Yeah.
And innately they know that, even if they don't know that they have intuition or that they know those things, it's that answers aren't coming to them like as clearly and as making as much sense. Because now with a nothing drawing us forward that tells us exactly which way we get to go, we actually are the ones that get to choose that in the moment. So there's this whole new level of everything being a choice point now, like there's never been in recorded history before, ever. I mean, maybe not even ever on this earth, ever, where we get to literally say, I don't know what's happening because nothing has already been preset. So I release all of that and have faith that I will get what feels good to me if I allow it. And then choose what we're going to do, choose how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So we're finally getting that godhood ability to navigate the own ship instead of being stuck in these energy channels.
And that choice is, from what I'm picking up from you, that choice is energetic first, rather than action oriented.
Has to be.
But we had a great show this morning with Tehran. I forget her last name, pardon me. She's a geneticist. She's been studying DNA in a laboratory for years and years. And she talked about the same thing in a different way. And she said, basically, in a nutshell, that her work and what she's studied, she's working on her PhD now, that it's proven that basically, in very general terms, to be present, because the universe knows what you want, knows the highest good, knows your passion, knows what you align with, but by staying present, really staying present, not cliche, that you actually align your DNA and as within, without, and everything else aligns with you. It's almost like taking the thinking out, but certainly, I don't know if that's the case, but it's certainly taking out the planning, the controlling, and the old remnants and characteristics of the patriarchal paradigm.
Well, you make a good point where it's like, is it about thinking? And so let's boil it down to even a more fundamental question is it what can the mind even do?
Yeah.
And the only answer that I can come to is very simply, this idea that we have free will. So not from the human perspective, I think that free will from a human perspective is a very limited perspective and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's go one level up and say from the perspective of the soul and the soul personality, the part that actually manifests into a body and amalgamates its energy with earth and becomes a different being. That upper part, it made the free will choice.
That's right.
To incarnate into particular energies in the full knowing that its goal was to be present with those energies and dissolve those energies. And once it did, then it could finally reconnect again with its free will, because enough karma would be burned off, stored pattern energy, that there wasn't the requirement to stay focused on it by the mere nature of how consciousness works. So the freedom comes from dissolving those energies. Well, that just leaves us with choice points.
Right.
And so all the mind can do ever is, from where it's at, it can only choose to open to what's there or close to it. And from within a very limited range of what it can see in this moment, it can direct its attention either a little bit up or a little bit down the spiral. Now, up and down, up the spiral is the same thing as opening, and down the spiral is the same thing as closing. So basically, those two things that I said that the mind can do are the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, if in this moment we were to make a new agreement with our mind and say, thank you for serving me during these intense times of karma and keeping me alive based on what it is you thought that meant.
Yeah.
And I see you that the only thing that you want to do is to protect what you think is me. And now that job is done. Now we're speaking from a bigger eye. We're speaking from the eye that's the one who is even watching all of this happen, you know, the one who's even watching thoughts. From that perspective of the eye, that eye has a lot of power. And so from that eye, we can say, now we're going to take care of us. We're going to take care of the body. We're going to take care of the ego, who is designed to protect the body in a false reality that's an illusion. But still, that's what it's designed for from its perspective. I'm going to keep you safe.
Yeah.
We say, we're going to keep you safe now. We're going to make a new job for you. Your new job, mind, is simply and only to notice if we're closing and choose to open instead.
Yeah.
Notice when we're afraid and choose to radically, courageously face what's there instead. Notice when we're numbing or distracting and radically choose to be present and feel even the darkest, most difficult feelings instead. That's your only job. And that will be the thing that will make us feel safer.
Wow.
And really soon, with that kind of perspective, people start facing the thing and being responsible by feeling and owning their experience, rather than blaming or saying that anything can come from the outside, that government actually has any power. Because I tell you what, you get enough people who are open like that, they will affect the field so powerfully that there will be no such thing as outside influence.
That's right.
That's when we start seeing miracles and people changing over in Congress and world situations, environment things just resolving. It's going to take the individual responsibility that says, my work here is to open to this.
The powerful, I don't even want to say minority, because it could be a 3%, 4%, 10%. It wouldn't take a lot. I want to go back and restate a couple of things that you said that are really important, because it's for my own. One is, which I've understood in my own universe for a long time, which is free will. Yeah, the free will at the human level was never the free will that was referred to at a universal level or religious level, whatever you want to call it. We chose to come down here. You explained it very well. We chose to come down here into particular energies with a purpose. And as you were saying that, I was putting together this show this morning, reflecting on that too, still. I see it in your language, which was her explained in her language, now in your language, which is basically, once we've dispersed enough of that loop, those loops, those energetic loops, then we begin to align with our higher self, so to speak, the communication level becomes very acute, and we actually align with that free will. We actually start to that same level of us that made the choice to come here is now from that same intelligence level or higher even, able to now operate down here in the flesh and utilize free will in alignment with universal will, divine will, collective will, that type of thing. So I think that's a really important, what you said. We, on one hand, we don't have the control, but on the other hand, we have all the control. We always have. We just had to clear the field in order to hear ourselves. I think it's what you're saying.
And that is the powerful choice. And that is the free will choice that has already been made.
Yeah.
And it's made every day that we continue to wake up in our body, because when we make up in our body, we can be assured that our higher self, the soul personality, or you could go all the way back up to what people call God's will, because at those levels, they're all in alignment with each other. There's no difference as far as I can tell. And that free will choice has already been made. I'm coming down here to bear witness to what's here on earth. And in bearing witness to it and feeling it and taking responsibility for it, I am dissolving the stored patterned energies. And I am opening enough for much more clearer, peaceful, and, some people would say the word enlightened, just meaning has more light, which just means more open and are more harmonious vibrations, just by showing up here, just by opening to what is. That's it. And then while we're in this body, the choice looks like, am I going to choose to really be present with this and open to it or not? That's it.
I like this. You know what? The reason I like this and the previous shows, and there's no coincidences that they ran together, is because it takes the whole oneness discussion. I mean, we talk about oneness, and oneness is, be kind to everybody, be at peace with everybody, but it goes deeper than that. This is a science, a spirit science. It's a mathematics, and it actually is oneness. It gets us off of the differences of separation. I like many of us work on myself. I've got a problem with certain commentary from certain people that have been out there a while. It almost takes away the emphasis. It does take away the emphasis of life itself, of the whole experience of living. Like, why are we here? Oh, well, we're nothing, so we're everything. Oh, don't get caught up in your personality and your identity. Well, I get all that, but don't take everything away. There's a reason we're here. We're representing the universe. We're representing ourselves, and we're expanding. That's what we're doing. We're expanding. So when you talk in these terms, this type of thing creates everything from the central part of the universe, which is ourselves. It's an alignment. It's a sacred geometry, and it takes care of that whole oneness thing. And the last thing I got out of it, which I really appreciate, is that it takes all the focus off of she did this, he did that, they do this, they do that. I'm different than them, therefore I am separation, but I don't want to admit it or I'm unaware of it. It's just the science of what is actually happening. So now I can operate down here in this quote unquote thick density with that mind that's been speaking to me, that woke me up, but not just that, that understands that my decisions shouldn't be based on what I'm looking at out here, therefore taking a physical action, but should be based on the energetic mathematics that I understand that create this whole thing and put me down here in the first place.
Right.
And I think that's what you were referring to earlier.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say, and I couldn't until I heard you, was I've been told, just hold. Whatever you do, don't go back into that old paradigm. Hold this space because the answer is here. And now I'm understanding more than ever to make these decisions, claim them on an energetic basis, and the rest will happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
So a little science, quantum physics real quick, I think might serve this conversation. I'm going to go based off of something called holographic theory. but I'm going to blend it with black hole theory and even Nassim Haramein's research on the fundamental building blocks of reality being like voxels, these little pockets of space-time that are quantized. So this bigger picture, I'm gonna boil it down into something very simple because it would take me a half hour to go through my whole spiel, and I'm gonna make it shorter, like really short. Basically, the best explanation we have that we can describe in our 3-4-dimensional understanding is that we are all inside one black hole. And that black hole is a singularity. And that word is super important because singularity means single. It means there's one. Now, in the point of a singularity, all dimensions, space and time, all compress so much because of, gravity, that all of the dimensions enfold upon each other and are no longer there, so to speak. So if we were to go back to the idea or theory of the Big Bang, that everything came out of essentially nothing, right? Now, that's mostly true. The only thing that's broken with that explanation is that if there was ever a singularity, if one ever existed, it would already contain all possibilities that could ever happen in all dimensions already. So it already contained this moment, and it already contained all possible future moments and all possible parallel moments and all other potential universes with all other rules that are different from duality. All of that would be contained within a singularity. So the best way to describe that in physics is to say that we never left the singularity.
Right.
We are still on the interior of a black hole. Now, how do you get an entire universe out of nothing? Well, the easiest way I have to describe that is put yourself in between two mirrors and shine a light. And then the light will be this big, and then it'll get smaller, and then smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as it reflects back and forth. Now make that mirror a different shape, almost like a disco ball that's been turned inside out. So there's all these different faucets, there's all these different points of consciousness, these perspectives. And you as the one, which is the singularity, which is the only source and the only witness, which is all of us, we have to all be there in a point of no space and no time. We got to be one, otherwise this math doesn't work out.
Right.
We are all there, and we are all observing from the inside of the black hole. Well, black holes have a very beautiful aspect to them where the light isn't supposed to be able to escape it. At least it can't escape in its form, the way it looks. Once it crosses the event horizon, the gravity of the center is so strong that it pulls everything right into the center. So if you were already at the center and you had a flashlight and you shined it away from you, the gravity would pull the light right back. And so what the observer would see would be the light that it projected. So if I had a movie projector and I projected an image, a set of light vibrations in a pattern outward, then they would come right back and I would see what I projected. Exactly it. It would just come and return, right? So it would be like I was looking at a movie screen, but I was actually only looking at the light that I was emitting. Now, it appears that when the witness either opens or closes, is in resistance or allowance, it changes two things. It changes how much light or vibration or energy or karma or emotional energy, whatever you want to call it, it's irrelevant. Same stuff. The wider that witness is, the more energy can come back in and return to the center and no longer vibrate and become infinite potential. It's just there to be created with again. And also because the more open it is, the more the vibrations of the nature of God, the center, the one consciousness, the clearer they will make it out of the aperture without distortion. So you'll get very, very clear, harmonious, coherent, good feeling. Bliss would be a great word to describe what a coherent vibration actually feels like. That's what's being emitted. if the aperture closes, two things happen. One, not very much energy can return. And so that light is just orbiting inside of a spinning black hole. It's just out there in the field. It's just out there like an orbiting planet. And until that aperture opens and bears witness to it without resistance, and doesn't create more like it, it's going to be out there just waiting. That's what karmic cycle is. It's just out there.
Yeah.
So, and also the light being emitted from it is distorted. It's incoherent vibration, like fear, like anxiety, like despair. And the worst of all, at the lowest, is guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And that's what the basis for all of that, because the witness is so uncomfortable for it to look at guilt and shame. As soon as it starts to see that, it closes down again. So the only way any of this ever gets resolved is if the witness chooses to open regardless of what it witnesses.
Yeah.
And that is what people call Shiva. That's the divine masculine. It is the pure form of Christ consciousness, meaning awareness. It is the one who witnesses without resistance and stands present without resistance. Well, Shiva was considered to be the god of death and the god of yogis, because those two things are the same in this explanation. When the one opens and witnesses, those vibrations come back to rest. They die to their vibrating life. They come back to infinite potential. And that's what yogis do. They say, sit here, be in meditation, witness what arises, and then let it go. Meaning, don't think more thoughts in response to it. So being Shiva, being the one who is bearing witness, being in the masculine and opening to and being present with whatever is just as it is the only thing that will make anything ever change for the better. That's it. Now, people think, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do in the world? Okay, open, open, open. Now, once you've opened, well, what happens? The aperture opens more, so more coherent vibrations are emitted, and also the picture gets broader, so we get to see the rest of the truth of who we really are and everything else. Like, we can see more when this aperture is open. We don't just see our physical self, we see our soul and our purpose and God and love. So now it's open more. Well, what's going to happen next is, because my vibrations are more coherent now that I've opened, and I'm also can see existing coherent vibrations, I will have the thought of coherent, aligned action. It's another way of saying I will actually be inspired to do whatever it is. Now, if I go then and I take the action from that inspiration instead of from fear, then I will keep feeling more inspiration, because that's what I'm focused on. That's what I emitted. And so that will cascade into all the right actions that will have all the right results and pull in all the right things. But if I were to take the same action from fear or resistance or guilt or should or shame, like the environment's going to shit, I need to do something about it. Okay, hold up, bub. Don't do anything yet. Feel all the feelings you have about that.
Right.
Like feel the deep grief of watching our planet die. Feel the terror in your body because you don't know where you or your kids are going to live in 20 years. Feel it, because first, feeling that's going to evoke a huge amount of change into what's possible, because those vibrations will be dissolved. And then if they feel that and open with courage, then they'll be inspired. They'll be like, I want to do something for this world because I love it, not because I'm afraid of losing. Which means that those actions will be so much more powerful, meaning orders of magnitude, possibly millions or billions of times more influential those actions will be in the world, because it'll come from an open aperture.
Key word, yeah. And again, that follows suit with Charan this morning. Yeah, here's a little exercise, a 4-step exercise. And step 1 is awareness. And then step 2 was integration, and the key word there was feel it. So that's what you're talking about. Feel that grief, feel that anger, feel that emotion. Don't resist it. And the third one I found very interesting, she said, was transformation, keyword, sense it. And I thought, well, what is that? So I brought something up. I felt what I felt, the emotions. And then with what I brought up, I said, okay, now go to step 3, sense this. I started to sense, and I felt stinging that you get before tears. And I felt like an ache in my heart. And then it was gone. That to me is like what you're describing. It's like that was me opening. And so my concern, my worry, all that went away, and I could literally feel my body lift. And that was the opening, that you're describing.
Yes. And that is, if everybody, anybody could have the courage to face anything that way, anything, it doesn't matter what it is, if they can really genuinely radically open to it, it will begin to change almost immediately. And it's that level of surrender or faith, or the leap of faith that's talked about. This is all they're talking about. They're talking about, and if we were to use the word God for a minute and say, I pray to God, and because I have faith in God, I trust that because I've asked that I will be safe and that these things will get resolved. Now my attention is upon those ideas. And because I have faith, in this case, we could just say, because I know the science and I trust the science and I've practiced it, I trust that my opening to God, or just to what is or whatever, is enough. That's what faith is. That's what grace is. And so just from the opening and the attention being on the thing prayed for, being open and focused on that is what will create it. It's already done in divine mind, so to speak, meaning that for every infinite potential, whatever it is that we think is non-preferred, there's a mirror to it. There's something that in the universe of duality, whether for instance, every proton, there's actually an anti-proton. For every vibration, there's its opposite. So for everything in the universe of duality, everything first, when it is created, it splits apart and we get to see half of it. But the other half, we have to open to and begin to witness. And when we begin to witness its other half, meaning the solution to the problem that has already been created when the problem was created, because they're always created in pairs, then when I witness this, I'm already witnessing this, because I'm like, hey, I'm afraid. And I'm like, oh, now I have faith, I trust.
Right.
They come back together and they settle back down and they come back to center. And now they both have dissolved. Because I've already experienced the good when I was experiencing the bad. Both of those experiences, those vibrations meet and neutralize each other. And I'm left again with a blank slate. What I like to create and focus on today.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because that's the same thing she said today. She said, think of it as just a big white marker board, just a big white board. And then she put a dot on it. The other thing I love about what you say too is this whole faith thing. I remember when I started 8 years ago, was one of the first things that I was told was the word faith. And of course we have these definitions, but I was led to the dictionary and I read this particular form of it, which was a transitive verb, which to me meant motion, to trust and believe, period. That was it. To trust, believe. And that's what it is, because we've all been through it where we've said, this is what I want, here's my wing and a prayer. Now, of course, we know, if we use that context, we know you put it out there, you walk away. That's faith. But if you put it out there and you're still worried and you're still this and that, you haven't opened that aperture you're talking about. Still got work to do. And I think some of that is that shadow work, that personal responsibility for.
Because if I can't just all of a sudden have faith and totally open, because I still have other disharmonious vibrations really present for me, those emotions, those thoughts that are reflective of those emotions, whatever it looks like for me, then my work is to have faith, hear this, that I have faith that I will be safe in being present with these emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if there was one thing to put it into the this is what faith means hat right now, that's different from anything I've ever heard, is that since the only thing to do here is to dissolve the stored patterned energies and then open to anything past that, requires me opening to them, which means that my faith would have to be that I am safe to feel these feelings.
Yeah.
I'm safe to look right at these situations, look right at these thoughts, and feel everything that it brings up for me. And so my courage is always going to start with, I am going to take the leap of feeling this and maybe acting upon it, no matter what, whether I'm safe or not, because that's what courage says. In the face of fear, I open anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good shift.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's good.
You know, one last thing on that idea is that if people cannot access faith or even courage right away, by looking at what's good that's possible, right? So if I can't even get my mind wrapped around the remote possibility that everything can work out, whatever it is that I'm worried about or afraid of or whatever, then the next best option, which is a great option, it works, is to face the thing that I'm afraid of as if it's inevitable. Because then I have the courage. If I don't think there's a way out, so I can't see the good the positive possibility, then use it. Leverage that by saying, well, if that's where I'm at and I feel stuck and I don't see a way out, I'm going to use that same courage to face the thing that I think is terrible, even my own death or my mortality or something in the world going terribly wrong or people being in pain. And I'm going to look straight at it. I'm going to have the courage. If I'm in hell, I'm going to get cozy here. I'm going to relax into it. I'm going to face that I'm here. And in the courageous act of facing, courage is a very open place. So for the courageous act of facing anything head on, it again begins to dissolve immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only way out of hell, which to me is the experience, but not true, is the experience of being separated from God. The all, the is, the pure love of oneness, whatever you want to call it, peanut butter, I don't care what you call it. That's what hell is. It's separation from God. But separation from God's not possible. So it's the experience or the perception of separation from God, which just means that anybody who's in hell, as a term, is in such resistance that their aperture is so closed that they can't see the light.
Yeah.
They don't know they're in heaven because they're in resistance to it. So the only way out of heaven is to radically open to being in hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you open, and then what happens? Everything fills with light, because that's what's there.
That's right. And don't forget that was our choice from a higher aspect, which is the beauty of it all.
Right.
Because we come back with an expanded version,
Yeah.
And the universe or God or source has expanded with us, as us, however you want to put it. But these layman's rules of the road, I love this. The facing, if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you only see this inevitability of what you fear, is to jump right in there with both feet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Go through the hoop of fire.
Yeah. And that's why we came. I talk about those of us who came for this purpose, like those points of consciousness that we refer to as self. We're like, hey, this unique vibration came down to do what? Well, to clean up this crazy, crazy jungle of consciousness of so much variety and contrast, because on Earth we have access to the darkest vibrations and the most dense and separate perspectives. But our body, with all these symbols that we call chakras, symbolizing these different levels of vibration or vibrations of the is, not only do we have access to everything below this, which includes all the way down to the root chakra of the idea of am I safe or am I not safe, which is the root of the false belief in separation, that I could even possibly be unsafe is a false belief that's rooted in the lowest chakra vibratory range, right? And we have then in a body the ability to witness all of those vibrations. And in order to witness them is the only way that we can dissolve them. So when our higher selves entered into through this gate that separates the difference between the higher vibrating realms and the lower vibrating realms and started to connect, it began to be able to bring consciousness to these lower vibrations and witness them and therefore dissolve them, right? So who would be crazy enough in the spiritual realms up there where everything is so clear that everything's great to come down here into the belief in separation and be the ones who would be courageously willing to face, feel, believe are even true for a while that we're separate and that we're not eternal and that we can die and we can be separate from God and all these things? Well, I would say some crazy and courageous spiritual special ops people.
Valiant souls. We got a couple of names here. John King says ghetto angels, light bringers of the dawn. And
Yep.
Pia Holland says emotional ninjas. Valiant, valiant souls.
Spiritual special ops team. I mean, think about it. Like, let's parachute into Earth, forget everything that we ever knew, and only our brand new bodies that we haven't even learned how to use yet. We're gonna parachute in, and right into the middle of a jungle with no paths out.
Yeah.
No guides and no direction.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to lead back to the truth. I mean, that's nuts. That's brave.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. So it's like, what can we trust? We can trust our innate nature that knows that the truth is that we are God, all is well, nothing can go wrong. And if we can do that, then this just becomes a game.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong here. This is just the experience that we're having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very real. Very true. Very good. Good, great stuff. Great stuff. I'm gonna have to watch this one. I don't usually watch it. So you still got
I get excited. We're on like this great subject, I mean, this is like fundamentals of reality.
That's it. This is like you said, I said, what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about what's happening right now. This is real-time intel. This is what it's really about. And I'm getting lit up as these epiphanies and revelations and codes are opening up. I love this analogy of the mirrors, that quantum analogy. I love that. That's such an easy, and several people made comments about it. But this is the kind of stuff that we really, really try to pursue here. Morgan and I.
So Aurora asked a really good question. She says, how many of us basically are the spiritual special ops team? And is this for everyone ultimately? Now, there's got to be multiple different answers to this question depending on what level of reality we're looking at it from, okay? So from the level of soul personalities incarnating into a body, will everybody be this? Not at all. Because the lens of a soul that focused into a soul personality, which has accrued a lot of experience in probably other solar systems, other universes, who knows what. There's a lot of knowledge in that focal point. That focal point has been, so to speak, cultivated or specially designed for this work. And those are the particular sets of lenses for consciousness that when consciousness looks through them, those are the tasks that it can complete based upon what's contained in its knowledge and its vibration. What has it already transcended? How can it approach these things? So once its work is done, it'll pave a way for a whole different set of new souls, which a lot of them are starting to come in now, that have a whole different task, which is to not necessarily process all of this disharmonious energy, but to actually become the channel for whole new inspirations and new vibrations that are the planet is just now being able to hold and be ready for.
Yeah.
Now, from a zoomed out perspective, there's only one of us here.
Yeah.
And imagine, for instance, if you were to wake up tomorrow having forgotten who you were today, and then you were to fall asleep and forget again, and you would forget again every night, right? The only memory you'd ever have would be of that particular day. That would be your experience. And so there's a set of vibrations that you would be looking through. The idea of, I'm Zachariah, I'm this many years old, I have this body, I have this past, I have this future, whatever. That's all you would know. And then if you switch to the next day, and if any of those things that you consider to be memory or ideas of yourself were somehow just changed, when you, the one who's watching, woke up in that body with that memory and those vibrations, you would think that you were that.
Yeah.
Now, think about God, the one witness, somehow looking through all of these different perspectives. And when it's focused into any one perspective, it is fully that thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's still just one witness, just having all of these different experiences simultaneously, almost like a dragonfly's eye. You know how it has all these faucets, slightly different perspectives. Imagine that God was behind that, and every faucet was a different point of consciousness in the universe. And it was somehow watching all the different perspectives at once.
Like a kaleidoscope, but focusing in on one. Yeah, which is all the more reason, back to the top of the show, with the thing about presence. Like presence is the secret ingredient. It's just like, it's the biggest domino. It takes care of everything. It takes all the thinking out almost. I mean, it's just, so that's a great example too. Because if God focuses on one fractal, and that's pure presence.
Yes.
To be unaware of all the other infinite fractals.
Yeah.
And as Morgan says, a copy is a copy is a copy. So it'd be.
And what's funny, if you think about the aperture idea, is that as that aperture collectively gets bigger and bigger and bigger through all these different perspectives, eventually all of those perspectives will just become one view. Yeah. And so it won't be that anything that was unique about Todd and anything that was unique about Zachariah or Aurora or anybody on this list or any alien or any dog or any other point of consciousness that has ever been viewed through life has witnessed through it. It won't be that any of those things are gone. It won't be that at all. It'll be that they will know each other as themselves. Yeah. That I will remember the life of being Todd, and Todd will remember being the life of Zachariah, because there will only be one being having both memories. Yeah.
Omnipresence. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, how can people get in touch with you? I know you have a couple of events coming up. I can't remember if you do sessions online. Do you do sessions online?
I do.
Okay.
You know, my work, the baseline is to say that I bring presence to everything. And in my knowing and actually having the direct experience, and those are stories from a whole different time, of being and looking through and experiencing other people and their life and their memories and their emotional bodies and everything else, I acknowledge that when I'm working with somebody, that me and them are one. Yeah. And so everything that gets brought up in the field, any emotion or trauma or any stored pattern energy or any issue that's coming up in thought, whatever it gets brought up, I'm with them and I'm so with them that I can feel on my body, their body. I can feel in my emotions, their emotions. I can feel in my memories, their memories. I can intuit what's there. And so we use that to not only both of us, me being the one that's unattached, I get to have such an open aperture that I don't lose sight of their truth. I can still feel and sense and be with their soul, like right there in the same vision as also being with and not spiritually bypassing and not shutting down to whatever their real, very real disharmonious or incoherent vibration, emotion, experience, life, trauma is happening. And so we guide both to a more open aperture and perspective at the same time as feeling this so completely that it, we can do years and years, sometimes hundreds of years worth of energy. Probably the most I've ever done in one sitting was like 10,000 years worth of karma, just by both of us sitting with, feeling that, owning it, becoming it, allowing it to move, and then it's gone. And so the experiences that people have, it doesn't matter if it's physical, mental, or emotional, spiritual. It doesn't matter. None of those subjects are limitations to me. It's like whatever's up, we will find the root of it and we'll dissolve that. So I call those sessions breakthrough sessions. I like that because I've had people say things like, this one session was more impactful and more healing for me than 7 years of therapy, or so I'm like, I want people to do breakthroughs. And if I can't do a breakthrough, I'm wasting my time. I want a miracle. That's how I live my life. So I have 2 programs coming up. I have one for men. It's called Awakening the Noble Template. That's part of my Master Shift for Men series. It's a 4-month container for men. It's all online. And then I have a container for women. The men's program is co-facilitated by this amazing woman. Her name is Sydney Culver. She'd probably love to speak with you. She's good friends with me and Nina and a few other beautiful people.
That'd be cool. Look us up.
And the women's program is the Master Shift for Women. And it is simply called Devotion. And it's called that because what those who balance towards the feminine right now are ready for, and what's going to make the biggest shift in their life, is they're turning towards and opening to and giving all of their safety concerns over to and surrendering to their inner masculine, which is God, the Christ consciousness. And then, of course, their outer world begins to reflect that. Their partners begin to reflect that as they align with it. So I have a men's program, a women's program. And if it's right to work with somebody for only one time or a few different times, I do, in fact, do one-on-one sessions. Or if there are people aren't matched to the programs, I do longer-term one-on-one work with people if and when they're ready. I much prefer that to just single sessions, because if I get somebody for a few months, their whole life changes. If I get somebody for just one session, it still might, but I like to nurture people through the process.
And regardless, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Always Facebook. Shoot me a Facebook message. And I don't always get to them right away. I usually do within a week. I still have some messages left over from the live I did last week that I haven't gotten to today. So
thank you. I don't feel so bad.
Right away.
I don't feel so bad. I think I've still got some for like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, good stuff, man. I look forward to further collaborations, and hook us up with Sydney and whoever else you think brothers and sisters could benefit from. It's all about collaboration, co-creation. And thank you for your service, and thank you for coming on with us again. I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, thank you for being such a great container for these discussions. I have a really good time. Enjoy it.
All right, you take care. Best to your partner and your baby.
Cheers. Thank you.